Ever had the feeling that you were being followed? That somebody's eyes were on you, but you just weren't sure where the eyes were? That you weren't quite alone when you thought you were, or felt that you were in imminent danger? Ever felt that, well, something wasn't quite right? 99% of the time, these feelings are just feelings. Maybe we were tired or a bit worse for wear after a late night out. Normally, it is just our brain tricking us into paranoia because we're conditioned to be cautious of the dark. But there have been cases where people's gut feelings have been right. And just like that, they have vanished without a trace. There are disappearances that have not been solved to this day. Even the most seasoned investigators in the best police departments simply can't work out what has happened or where a person has gone. It is like they have, quite literally, disappeared into thin air. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 strange disappearances and crack some of these cases back open. The 13-year-old's car discovery. Griffin Lake in British Columbia, Canada, is a deep blue expanse sitting below stunning mountains amid beautiful Canadian countryside. Snowy peaks stand majestically at the end of the lake, with the scenic retreat making a perfect countryside getaway location. But in 2019, Griffin Lake became the subject of a mysterious discovery, one that had evaded Canadian police for nearly 30 years. Max Warenka was a normal 13-year-old boy from Alberta, Canada. He enjoyed the outdoors and had spent time in the past filming his adventures with his GoPro camera. In August 2019, Warenka had been out paddleboarding on Griffin Lake when he spotted something strange lurking below the surface. A group of people who had been staying in cabins on the lake shore also came to have a look, and they deduced that they were seeing the shiny underside of a car. Bemused as to what a car could be doing at the bottom of the lake, Warenka and his family reported the discovery to the police. After doing some Googling, the group realized that a group of 4 people had been rescued from a sunken vehicle in Griffin Lake in 2007, assuming that the car was simply left over from that. A pretty cool discovery nonetheless, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police came to the lake to check it out anyway. When the police arrived, the presumed car did not appear so clearly, so the police asked Max to dive into the lake with his GoPro to see what he could find. Lo and behold, the car was still there, in full, and there was a human body in the driver's seat. It quickly became apparent that the car wasn't the one in the 2007 rescue, but one that had been at the bottom of the lake for potentially some time. The police divers team arrived a few days later and confirmed the body in the car. Analysis revealed that the body was that of Janet Farris, who had disappeared on her way to a wedding in the Griffin Lake area. Police were quick to rule out foul play and rather concluded that it was likely Janet swerved, trying to avoid an animal or something else, and lost control, spinning into the lake. Though the truth will never be fully known, for Janet's family, however, a welcome comfort to finally knowing where their relative was all this time. The pensioner who vanished. James Pruitt, a 70-year-old resident of the sunny state of Tennessee, was reported missing from the Rocky Mountain National Park in early March 2019. Alarm bells were first raised when his car was found desolate at the Glacier George trailhead on the early morning of March 3rd. Upon further investigation, rangers uncovered that Pruitt had not been in contact with his family for several days before his disappearance, since February 28th as a matter of fact. Naturally, this confirmed the rangers' suspicions, and search efforts got underway swiftly later that day. However, as always seems to happen in these situations, the odds were against the search party from the off. The park had been smothered in 2 feet of snow just days before Pruitt's disappearance was reported, and coupled with the rocky terrain, it was becoming evident that finding Pruitt was going to be no easy feat. For 6 days between March 3rd and March 8th, an extensive search was conducted. Rangers trawled the park, and a variety of specialized teams were also deployed utilizing dogs and even aerial reconnaissance. The search encompassed 15 square miles of lakes, glaciers, and gorges, yet James Pruitt was still nowhere to be found. Owing to the persistent bad weather, search efforts were called off in mid-March, although the story does not just end here. During the summer, efforts were revitalized and focused on more specific areas, and there was also more hope this time as the summer was a busy time with over 2 million people flocking to the park each year to bask in its secluded beauty. This meant that with streams of visitors also traversing the park, it was much more likely that someone was going to stumble on a clue, perhaps one of his belongings or even Pruitt himself. But unfortunately, the series of attempts that took place over the summer yielded no clues nor results, and efforts tapered off. At this point, you would be forgiven for thinking that any chance of Pruitt being found were long gone. However, in October, a new search began, albeit with a different tactic. Instead of focused searches in popular parts of the park, efforts were concentrated in off-trail areas. It was hoped that, as visitors were less common there, clues linked to Pruitt could still be awaiting discovery, and any tracks he may have left could still be intact. Ultimately, the search was unsuccessful, but it demonstrated the resilience of the search teams. In a final blow to any hopes of finding Pruitt alive, the park's public information officer, Kyle Patterson, confirmed that no active searches would be taking place as of the 26th of November 2019, instead relying on members of the public to report anything they think might be relevant. As of 2021, Mr. Pruitt is still considered missing, with the occasional Facebook post reminding the public to keep their eyes peeled for clues. With that said, any hope of uncovering the truth of his untimely demise has long been extinguished. The Mccullough disappearance. Charles Mccullough was 19 in 1974 when he left his home state of Virginia to travel to Oregon for a hiking adventure. Charles, or Chuck as he was affectionately known, had seen some friends before planning a trip to Crater Lake National Park in Oregon for a few days of walking amongst the stunning, snowy mountains, beautiful sunsets and sunrises, and the crystal blue waters of the lake itself. Charles was a keen photographer, and despite weather conditions in the park tending to be poor in January, the month of his trip, Charles ventured on alone into the wilderness. Crater Lake National Park is covered in deep snow during the winter months. The park is still open, and visitors can take guided snowshoe tours and even ski in the mountains. However, the conditions can be extreme, and traveling alone is not recommended. Not to mention that Crater Lake is actually the deepest lake in America at a massive 594 meters deep at its deepest point. Charles told his friends that he would be gone for around 2 days before returning to their house for the remainder of his trip. However, he did tell them that, if he was not back by the 1st of February, to call the police and report him missing. This would turn out to be a valuable piece of information. The days passed, and the 1st of February was drawing nearer with no sign of Charles returning. The day swiftly came, and his friends began to worry, calling the police and reporting him missing. The authorities powered through the worsening conditions, but to no avail. A mass search team found no evidence of Charles, with some assuming that he had changed his direction and that they might be looking in the wrong place. However, with nearly 2.5 meters of snow, the search was not getting any easier, and despite the park thawing out as spring drew near, neither Charles nor his body were anywhere to be seen. There had been reports of people spotting Charles in the Diamond Lake area, a 45-minute car ride from Crater Lake, and a park ranger reported that he had given Charles a lift to the entrance of the national park on the 30th of January. What had happened after he dropped Charles off, however, the ranger did not know. Nearly a year-long search showed nothing, until in 1976, 2 friends from Texas stumbled across chilling human remains after taking a wrong turn on their hike. The remains were confirmed to be those of Charles, but they were scattered strangely, with a lot of the bones still inside Charles's clothes. The weirdest thing, however, was that the remains were found 12 miles from where the park ranger had dropped Charles off on the 30th of January. How had he travelled so far in such awful conditions? The skull that was recovered showed no blunt trauma, and investigators concluded that Charles had frozen to death after removing his clothes in what scientists call paradoxical undressing, feeling hot when you are freezing cold. Charles's family did not accept the explanation and were sure that foul play had occurred somewhere along the line. After all, why were the remains in such a secluded place? Charles's brother wrote in 2016, "If only those broken off shin bones could have talked to us, what do you think they'd say? I bet they'd say something like this: I hitched a ride with this creepy guy who stole my camera equipment and money and shot me in the head. Then on a clear day in the dead of winter, he hauled my body into the remotest part of Crater Lake, took my shirt and boots off, and set me up on a log and left, figuring the animals would destroy the evidence by spring." Haunting, tragic, indeed, and still utterly bizarre. We will never know what happened to Janet Ferris, James Pruitt, or Charles Mccullough. But what do you make of these three mysteries, and will they ever be truly resolved? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.